You've probably heard this thought experiment before. It feels like the ultimate planetary prank, a coordinated global effort to give the Earth a little nudge. The idea is to get all 8 billion of us in one gigantic crowd, in a field roughly the size of New Delhi. We count down from 3, and everyone jumps at the exact same time. It seems like it should do something, right? All that collective force applied to one spot on the planet's crust in a single unified moment. The reality, however, is a brilliant lesson in scale and physics, and it's far more amusing than you might think. First, let's talk about the logistics of this absurd event. Herding 8 billion people into one area is the first nightmare. This crowd would be unimaginably dense, a sea of humanity where personal space is a forgotten myth. The sheer pressure of the crowd, the heat, the lack of food and water would mean that a significant number of people wouldn't even survive to hear the countdown. But for the sake of the experiment, let's assume we're all magically, comfortably placed, and ready to jump. The signal is given. 8 billion people bend their knees and push off the ground as hard as they can. The collective force of our jump is impressive from our perspective. The average person can exert a force roughly equal to their body weight when jumping. So, with a total human biomass of around 500 billion kilograms, we're applying a force of about 500 billion newtons onto the ground, all at once. That sounds like a lot. It is a lot. It's a force comparable to a large asteroid impact. But here's the critical point. The Earth is utterly enormous. It weighs approximately 6 sextillion tons. That's a 6, followed by 21 zeros. Our mighty species-unifying jump is, to the Earth, less than a mosquito landing on a cruise ship. The force is spread out over a vast area and is utterly insignificant compared to the planet's immense mass and momentum. The actual effect on the Earth's orbit, or rotation, would be so infinitesimally small that not even the most sensitive scientific instruments could detect it. The planet wouldn't even flinch. It would not budge a single millimeter in its orbit. The energy of our jump is transferred into the Earth, but it's like trying to push an ocean liner by blowing on it. But wait, the story isn't quite over. While the Earth as a whole ignores us, the ground beneath our feet might have a different opinion. All that energy has to go somewhere. The sudden, massive impulse could generate a seismic wave, a small earthquake originating from our jump zone. It wouldn't be a catastrophic, world-shattering quake, but it might register as a very minor, very local tremor on seismometers. If we were jumping on solid bedrock, the effect would be minimal. If we were on something less stable, like a filled-in lake bed or sediment, the shaking might be more noticeable. The real geological impact, however, would be the aftermath. 8 billion people landing at the same time would be the second part of the pulse. The combined thud might be the more significant seismic event. Now, let's talk about the sound. 8 billion people jumping and landing would create a noise. A collective grunt of effort, the rustle of clothing, and the thunderous crash of 16 billion feet hitting the ground. The sound would be deafening, an oppressive wall of noise that would physically hurt your ears. It would be the loudest crowd noise in history, by an almost unimaginable factor. But would it be heard far away? Probably not much further than the edges of our massive crowd. Sound energy dissipates quickly in the open air. So, the final verdict is beautifully anticlimactic. Our grand global act of coordination would have no meaningful effect on the planet's trajectory. The Earth would carry on its path around the Sun, completely oblivious to the brief synchronized hop of the tiny organisms on its surface. The most significant consequences would be local and human. The inevitable stampedes and crushes in the crowd, the logistical nightmare of dispersing 8 billion people, and the collective global hangover of organizing such a pointless but fascinating endeavor. The real takeaway is a humbling one. It reminds us of our true scale in the cosmos. We can alter our environment dramatically, but some forces, like the momentum of a world, are so vast that even our greatest collective effort is just a whisper.